These four cities just got hit with the biggest property tax hikes in all of Florida. People moved in thinking they'd found their forever home, and then boom, they get hit with property tax increases so big, they're out here picking up second jobs just so they don't lose their houses. And the craziest part, most of them had no idea this was even legal. In this video, I'll show you the 4 worst Florida cities to buy in right now because of skyrocketing property taxes, how some cities are sneakily raising rates without people even noticing, and the wild plan that could erase property taxes in Florida forever. Let's jump in. Now, right off the bat, I want to explain a few of the biggest misconceptions about property taxes. First, the state of Florida doesn't collect property taxes. The city and county you live in do. And second, a lot of people think that since they own their home, their property taxes are capped at a maximum increase of 3% per year. Now, that's technically true, but it's also very wrong. Here's what I mean. If you live in your home full-time and it's your primary residence with a homestead exemption, the assessed value, the value used to calculate your property taxes, is capped at a maximum increase of 3% per year. That part's true, but the millage rate, the rate the city charges on that value, that's not capped at all. Local governments can raise it whenever they want, as long as they take a vote. And that's exactly what Gainesville, Florida just did. According to the Alachua Chronicle, Gainesville just approved a property tax hike that's 7.2% higher than the current rate. This 7.2% increase, it's not your home going up in value, it's the millage rate, which is what they charge per $1,000 of your home's assessed value. So Gainesville bumped it from around 6.43 mils to about 6.89. That's a 7.2% jump from what people paid last year. So bottom line, if your home didn't increase in value, your bill's still going up. The good news for Gainesville is that it's not one of the 4 worst cities with property tax increases in Florida. That 7.2% increase doesn't even come close to how much these 4 cities jacked up property taxes. You're gonna be shocked. And if you're starting to get a little bummed out about property taxes, I'm sorry, because it's gonna get even worse. This is the part that 90% of buyers don't understand about property taxes. And what makes it even worse, your realtor probably doesn't get it either. Here it is. The year after you buy your home, your property taxes are gonna uncap. And yeah, they could double, maybe even triple. Here's how it works. Let's say somebody bought a home in the year 2000 for $100,000. Thanks to Florida rules, their property taxes can only go up a max of 3% a year, like we talked about earlier. But the value of their home, that thing can skyrocket. So when you come in and buy that same house today for $500,000, you don't get to keep their sweet little tax bill from 2000. The year after you buy, your tax is uncapped, the home gets reassessed at the new price, that $500,000 you just paid, and that's what you're gonna get taxed on. Then yeah, your taxes get capped again at 3% max increases going forward, but by then, the damage is already done. You're locked into a way bigger bill. Now, here's the trap. You'd think that the bank would point this out when you're getting the loan, right? But no, the bank runs your numbers based on the current property taxes, the ones from the guy who paid $100,000. Not what they're gonna be based on your $500,000 purchase price. And that's what screws people. Let me show you what I mean. Most buyers got an escrow account with their bank. That means when you pay your mortgage, your lender also collects money every month for taxes and insurance. Then, when those bills come due, they pay them for you. That stash of cash is your escrow account. Let's say you buy a $400,000 house. You put 20% down, you get a 30-year mortgage at 6.5%. That gives you a principal and interest payment of about $2,000 a month. Add $6,000 a year for taxes, that's $500 a month, plus $2,400 a year for insurance, another $200 a month. Your total payment is around $2,700 a month. But here's where it gets nasty. The year after you buy, your home gets reassessed, your tax is uncapped, and boom, your new property tax bill is $12,000 a year. So now, your escrow account's in big trouble. It's short a ton of cash. You already paid in $6,000 this year, but the tax bill's $12,000. So you're short $6,000 right out of the gate. And next year, your lender knows they're gonna need the full $12,000 sitting in escrow again. So you're really short $18,000. $6,000 from this year, $12,000 for next. To catch up, they jack your escrow payment from $500 a month to maybe $2,000 a month just for property taxes. Add that to your $2,000 mortgage and $200 for insurance, Now your total monthly payment is $4,200. That's an additional $1,500 a month. And most people don't have that kind of extra money in their budgets because they buy right at the edge of what they can afford. So when that payment jumps by $1,500, they're screwed. Some end up selling the house after a year just to get out of the payment. Others, they lose it completely. That's the part nobody warns you about. And it's not just a few buyers getting caught off guard. This is happening across Florida. But in some cities, tax hikes are hitting way harder, and homeowners are the ones paying the price. So according to an article by Go Banking Rates, these are the top 4 cities in Florida with the biggest property tax hikes between 2021 and 2023. Now, we're using 2023 numbers since that's the most recent data out there. Here we go. Coming in at number 4, we got Orlando. Now, I knew it was going to be Orlando. They always make these kinds of lists. When you think about Orlando, everybody knows it's theme park heaven with Universal Studios and Disney World. Now, according to the article, the average property taxes annually in 2021 were $2,213. And then in 2023, they jumped up to $2,592. That's a 17.1% increase. Ouch. But that's actually the lowest increase on the list. It gets much worse. At number 3, we got the beautiful Miami with the great looking people, beaches, amazing food, and the non-stop nightlife. And some of the most stunning views in the state. It feels like you're on vacation every single day. Now, the average annual property taxes here in 2021 were $3,011. Now, that doesn't seem like that much for Miami, but remember, these are the averages. They include the most expensive house on the water all the way down to the shack next to the wastewater treatment plant. But in 2023, property taxes went up to $3,570. That's 18.6% in just 2 years. So if we took a $10,000 property tax bill and tacked on an 18.6% increase, you'd be looking at a new tax bill of $11,860. That's a $1,860 increase in just 2 years. You could drive a Mercedes-Benz S-Class for that price. At number 2 on the list is Jacksonville, and this one's just barely worse than Miami at an 18.7% increase. In 2021, they were at $2,022, which seems incredibly cheap. I may have to start paying close attention to Jacksonville. But in 2023, they jumped up to $2,401. That sucks. Now coming in at number 1 is Tampa. Damn it. I live right across the bridge from Tampa in St. Pete, so I hate seeing Tampa Bay cities on this list, especially at number 1. So in 2021, the average property tax payment was $1,935, which I think anybody in Tampa would kill to have that right now. And in 2023, that number jumped to $2,385. That's a 23.3% increase and the worst increase in property taxes out of every city in Florida. Come on, Tampa. Now, Florida didn't crack the top 10 states for fastest rising property taxes, but don't let that fool you. Taxes here are still climbing fast, and they're expected to keep going. LendingTree found that across the U.S., property taxes went up 10.4% between 2021 and 2023. These 4 Florida cities, they blew right past that. But hey, I'm not all doom and gloom today, people. If you know me, you know I absolutely love living in Florida, and one of the biggest reasons, they actually pass laws that try to make life better for the people who live here. And here's one you're gonna love. Governor Ron DeSantis has been pushing hard for lawmakers to kick off a plan to eliminate property taxes in Florida. And honestly, I think there's a real shot this is gonna happen. Now, a lot of people think DeSantis can just snap his fingers and make it happen, but he can't. If he could, it would have already been done. Here's how it actually works. A Florida representative or senator has to file a bill to propose a constitutional amendment to eliminate property taxes. Simple enough, right? That bill goes through committees, gets debated, and then both the Florida House and the Senate have to vote on it. To pass, it needs a 3/5 majority in each chamber, which is a pretty big deal. Now, if that happens, it doesn't automatically become law. It goes to all of us as the voters in a general election, and in this case, November 2026. And to actually change the Florida Constitution, it needs a 60% yes vote from the people. Now, does that mean property taxes for snowbirds, Airbnbs, or businesses are going away? Probably not. Most of this would only apply to homestead properties. your main home, the one you actually live in full time. And here's the reason why this matters. If you own your home outright, but the government can still take it away from you for not paying your property taxes, do you really own it? The answer is no. The government's basically your landlord, and that's just wrong. It's gotta change. And listen, if this thing actually passes, the Florida housing market is gonna absolutely explode. So what does all this mean for you? Should you just avoid these 4 cities and everything is gonna be fine? No. You need to know how to protect yourself no matter where you buy in Florida, so you don't get blindsided with a massive tax bill after you move in. The best way to do that? Learn how to check the numbers yourself. Most counties have a property tax estimator online. Here in Pinellas County, it's this website. I'll drop the link in the description below this video. If you're thinking about buying a house, go there first. Just plug in the address, put in the asking price or the price you're gonna offer, check the appropriate boxes, and bam, it'll tell you what your new taxes are gonna look like next year. It's that easy. And since you already know your taxes are gonna uncap the year after you buy, make sure you run those numbers before you sign anything. Now, this is actually your realtor's job, so ask them to walk you through it. And if they can't or don't know what you're talking about, find a better realtor. And the good news is, right now it's a buyer's market in Florida. Homes are sitting longer and prices are starting to drop. But this might be the calm before the storm. If you've been on the fence, this could be your last real shot to get in before everything changes. Here's why. Interest rates for mortgages are still pretty high, but that could flip fast. If Jerome Powell gets replaced and the Fed starts cutting rates, game on. Now, stack that with Florida getting rid of property taxes, and you're talking about a massive shift in what it costs to own here. And when that hits, you're gonna see multiple offers, cash buyers, bidding wars, and homes selling in hours over asking. It's gonna feel like 2021 all over again. So if you're thinking about buying, now's the time to start looking. Do not wait for the news to tell you now's the time to buy in Florida. By that time, it's too late. First, find a solid realtor who actually sells a lot of houses. Then have them set you up on a 30 days on market search. That means you'll get notified when a house has been sitting for 30 days with no offers. Why does that matter? Because according to Redfin, the median days on market in Florida is 70 days. So if a seller hasn't gotten any bites in the first 30 days, they're probably starting to sweat, knowing their house could sit for another 40 days before anything happens. That's usually when they get a little more flexible. That means you got a better shot at getting a lower offer accepted. That's how you can end up getting a great deal right now in Florida. And if you don't think Uncle Ronnie D is serious about eliminating property taxes, click here to learn why Florida property taxes are done after he just made this big move. DeSantis is throwing everything he's got behind it, but there's some powerful people that are trying to stop him. Who's gonna win? Click here to find out.